I had no idea what was coming that night. No clue. You know, some moments are just so ordinary at the time, but later, you look back and realize it was the point everything began to unravel. This was one of those moments. The evening started like any other, honestly. I wasn't even planning on going anywhere. It was a Friday night. I had just gotten off work, too tired to do anything, too exhausted to even think about being social. I figured I'd stay home, catch up on some sleep, maybe watch a show. But then Clara called. "Babe, you should come out tonight. It's just a small gathering, you know, nothing crazy. Just some drinks and people from the office," she said, her voice light and breezy. But there was something in the tone, something I hadn't noticed before. A little too eager. I could tell she was hoping I'd say yes, but not in a way that was desperate. It was the kind of hope you have when you're trying to hide something behind a smile. She wasn't the party type either. Neither of us really was. But Clara, I don't know. There was a shift in her lately. She was more distant. More distracted, if I'm being honest. So I agreed. Maybe I was just looking for an excuse to get out of my head. Maybe I wanted to believe everything was fine. I showed up around 9 p.m. The apartment was on the second floor of some tall building. It had that kind of polished, I've got my life together vibe that made me feel uncomfortable right off the bat. The kind of place people live in when they're too busy to actually live in it. I hesitated before ringing the doorbell. When the door opened, I was greeted by people I didn't recognize. A few faces, some unfamiliar, some too familiar, all laughing loudly. The clinking of glasses. The kind of noise that felt artificial, like people were trying too hard to make it feel like fun. It wasn't my scene, but I tried to shake it off. Clara was already deep in conversation with a few people by the bar. She was laughing a little too easily, her head thrown back, like she was having the time of her life. I told myself it was fine. After all, we'd been together for years. She could have fun. I could stay on the sidelines. It's what we always did. But tonight felt different. Maybe it was the way she looked at me when she saw me walk in. It wasn't the usual, "Hey, I'm so glad you're here," smile. It was almost like I was an afterthought. Like I didn't belong. I grabbed a drink and stood in the corner, hoping the alcohol would ease the discomfort. Clara was still laughing, talking, and for a moment, I just watched her. There was something about her that night, something that didn't sit right with me. The way she was too involved with the people around her. Her eyes a little too wide, her touch a little too familiar with everyone she spoke to. I looked around the room, trying to find someone to talk to, but everyone was either in groups or too absorbed in their own little worlds. So I just stayed there, nursing my drink, feeling like a stranger in my own life. Then it happened. It started with a glance. Clara was talking to a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with messy dark hair and a smile that could sell ice to an Eskimo. I didn't think much of it at first. She talked to people all the time, right? But something in my gut twisted when I noticed the way their bodies angled toward each other, the way she was looking at him. Not just talking, engaged. It was subtle at first. A touch of her hand on his arm. A smile. Then he leaned in a little closer, his lips brushing against her ear as he whispered something. And that was it. I couldn't move. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. This was not normal. This was not how things were supposed to be. I told myself it was just friendly. Nothing more. But deep down I knew. I knew the look she had when she laughed. I knew the way her eyes lingered just a bit too long. I wasn't naive. I had seen this before, on TV, in movies. It was the look of someone who was enjoying someone else's company a little too much. I watched them for what felt like hours, unable to tear my eyes away. The music blurred around me. The laughter became muffled, and all I could focus on was Clara and this man. The way she brushed her hair behind her ear while he leaned in closer, the way she responded to his jokes like they shared some kind of private world that didn't involve me. I wasn't even angry at first. Just hurt. Deep down, I felt the reality of it hitting me like a slow-moving truck. It wasn't just the physical closeness. It was the emotional distance between us. I hadn't seen it before, hadn't felt it. But now it was undeniable. Clara, the woman I thought I knew, was slipping away. I stepped outside onto the balcony for some air. I needed to get away, to clear my head. The cool breeze hit my face, and I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to push the image of Clara and that guy out of my mind. When I opened them again, there she was, standing in the doorway, watching me. "You good?" she asked, her voice casual, too casual. It didn't sound like her. It sounded like she was trying to play it off, trying to act like everything was fine. But it wasn't. Not for me. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Yeah, just needed some air. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at me, not with concern, but with a strange detachment. It was like she didn't know who I was anymore. Like I was a stranger standing in front of her. And then, in that moment, she said something that would stay with me forever. If you want to leave, you can. No one's stopping you. I felt my stomach drop. It wasn't an invitation, it was an ultimatum. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, paralyzed by the realization. She wasn't asking me to stay. She wasn't offering me comfort. She was giving me a choice. Either leave or stay. Either way, it didn't matter. And just like that, the life I thought I knew began to unravel. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at her, waiting for her to say something else. But she didn't. Clara just kept looking at me, like she was waiting for me to make the next move. I could hear the muffled laughter from inside the apartment, the music still playing in the background, but everything else felt like it was moving in slow motion. It was as if I was frozen in time, while the rest of the world continued to spin around me. I wanted to ask her what the hell she meant. Was this some kind of joke? Was she testing me? But when I opened my mouth, no words came out. My throat was dry, and my heart was racing. My mind was spinning with 1,000 questions, but the most pressing one, the one that I couldn't ignore, was, why wasn't she asking me to stay? This wasn't how it was supposed to be. We were supposed to be a team, right? I thought we were stronger than that. But here I was, standing outside, while Clara was inside laughing, clearly having a great time with someone else. And when she said that, it felt like a cold slap to the face. She had never been like this before. I thought I knew her better than anyone. But now, in this moment, it felt like she was a stranger. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, and finally spoke. What do you mean? Are you telling me to leave? Clara didn't even flinch. She just nodded slowly, her eyes narrowing a little as if she was trying to read me. I don't know, Tom. It's just, I think you should decide. If you're not happy here, then just go. The words hit me like a punch in the gut. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't the Clara I knew. This wasn't the woman I had spent years with, the one who would hold my hand when things got tough, the one who would comfort me when I had a bad day. This was someone different, someone distant. I could feel my chest tightening, and for a second, I thought I might actually pass out. My heart was pounding in my ears. What was happening to us? What was happening to her? I looked past Clara, at the party going on behind her. The music, the chatter, the laughter, it all felt like it was happening on another planet. I couldn't focus on any of it. My mind kept going back to what had happened earlier, with Liam. The way Clara looked at him. The way she seemed so comfortable with him. And here I was, on the outside, like a ghost in my own life. I forced myself to look at Clara again. Is this really what you want? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced back toward the apartment, her gaze flickering briefly toward the crowd inside. It was almost like she was thinking about it, weighing something in her mind. Maybe, she said finally, her voice barely a whisper. Maybe this is just what we need, Tom. A little space. A little time apart. Time apart. The words stung like a knife in my chest. I shook my head, suddenly feeling a wave of nausea wash over me. This isn't like you, I muttered. This isn't what we talked about. Clara didn't look at me anymore. She was staring straight ahead, her arms folded, her posture cold and distant. I don't know anymore, she said, her voice soft but firm. I just don't know. The silence that followed was deafening. The air between us felt thick with unspoken words, with things neither of us was willing to say. But in that moment, I realized something I couldn't deny. She had already made her choice. And whatever was left of our relationship, it was slipping through my fingers. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should leave, if I should just walk away from everything, or if I should try to fix it, try to salvage whatever was left of us. But I knew one thing for sure. Whatever path I chose, I was already too late. The distance between us had grown too wide. And in the silence of that balcony, as Clara stood there, her back turned to me, I realized that I didn't even know who I was anymore. And I didn't think Clara did, either. Fine, I said, my voice thick with emotion, though I tried to keep it steady. I'll go. I'll leave you to your time apart. Clara didn't stop me. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, her back to me, as I turned and walked away. As I walked away from the balcony, I could feel the cold night air seeping through my jacket. Each step felt heavier than the last. I wasn't sure where I was going, or why I was even still walking. I had just told Clara I was leaving, and yet I had no idea what I was supposed to do next. I was halfway down the stairs when I heard it. The sound of laughter from inside, the same laughter I had heard earlier. Only now, it was louder, more pronounced. Clara's laugh, mingling with someone else's. And for a moment, I thought I might turn around. I thought I might march back upstairs and demand answers. But I didn't. I kept walking. I didn't know why. Maybe it was because the truth had hit me like a ton of bricks, and I didn't want to face it just yet. Maybe I needed time to process everything. I stepped out onto the street, the lights from the apartment building casting long shadows on the pavement. The city was quiet, almost too quiet. I didn't know where I was going, but I kept walking. I tried to ignore the thoughts racing in my mind. The image of Clara with Liam, her hand on his arm, her smile so genuine, it made my stomach turn. It was like something had snapped inside me, and I didn't know how to put the pieces back together. As I walked, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, half expecting it to be Clara. But it wasn't. It was a message from Jenna, the one who had invited us to the party. "Tom, is everything okay? I noticed you left early." I stared at the screen, trying to figure out how to respond. What was I supposed to say? That everything was fine, when it clearly wasn't. That my wife had practically told me to leave? That I had caught her looking at another man in a way that made my blood run cold? I didn't respond. Not immediately. Instead, I shoved the phone back in my pocket and kept walking. I didn't want to go back to the apartment. Not yet. I needed to clear my head. But even as I walked, the city lights seemed to blur into a haze. The night had turned from a typical Friday to something darker, something unfamiliar. I ended up at a small park a few blocks away, the one I used to go to when I needed to think. I sat on a bench, my hands trembling, and stared out at the empty swings swaying in the breeze. I couldn't stop replaying the scene in my head, the way Clara had looked at me when she told me to leave, the coldness in her voice, and the way she had looked at Liam, like I wasn't even there. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shout, to ask her why. But I couldn't. Something inside me just knew that it wasn't going to help. I had already seen the truth in her eyes. And the truth was, she didn't need me anymore. And that thought, that cold, empty realization, hit me harder than anything else. I sat in the park for what felt like hours, my thoughts swirling in circles. The cold was starting to seep into my bones, but I didn't move. I couldn't. I wasn't ready to face the reality of what had just happened. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was from Clara. "Tom, please answer me. Where are you?" I stared at the screen for a moment, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to scream at her, ask her what the hell was going on, demand that she tell me everything. But another part of me, the part that was tired and broken, just wanted to walk away from it all. I took a deep breath and typed out a reply. I needed space. It was simple, vague, but it was all I could manage. I didn't want to go into details. I didn't want to say how hurt I was, how betrayed I felt. I didn't want her to know that her words had broken something in me. I hit send. Then, for a long while, nothing. The screen was blank, and my phone stayed silent. It felt like a weight was lifted, but also heavier, as if the silence had grown between us in ways that would never be bridged again. I sat there, the sound of distant traffic and the occasional bark of a dog the only noise around me. The world felt disconnected, as if I wasn't part of it anymore. I kept thinking about Clara and Liam, imagining them inside that apartment, laughing together, the way she'd laughed with me so many times before. But now it felt like a lie. Every smile, every touch, every moment we'd shared felt like something I had invented, a fantasy that had never existed. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. I almost didn't want to look. I was already bracing myself for the excuses, the "I didn't mean it," or "I'm sorry" messages. But when I opened the message, it was a voice memo from Clara. I clicked on it, my heart pounding as her voice filled the silence. "Tom, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I didn't mean to hurt you. It's just, I feel different. I feel like we're drifting apart, and I don't know what to do. Please talk to me." Her words hung in the air like a weight. I felt my stomach twist, my heart squeezing in my chest. It was like hearing her speak from a distance, like she wasn't the person I had married, but someone else entirely. I could hear the guilt in her voice, but also the uncertainty. She didn't know what was happening either, and that scared me more than anything else. I sat there, the phone pressed to my ear, trying to process what she had said. "I feel different." Those words echoed in my head. Had she felt this way for a while? Had she been thinking about it? And what did that mean for us? Could I even go back to the person she was before? Could we even find our way back to each other after everything that had happened? I wanted to respond, to tell her everything that was on my mind. But I couldn't find the words. Instead, I just let the silence take over, the weight of it pressing down on me more than her words ever could. I turned off the voice memo, pocketed my phone, and stood up from the bench. The cold air bit at my skin, but it didn't matter anymore. Everything felt numb. As I walked back toward my apartment, I couldn't stop thinking about Clara's message. The way she had sounded, so unsure of everything, made me question everything too. Maybe she was right. Maybe we were drifting apart. But why? How had we gotten here? The walk back felt long, longer than it should have. I knew, deep down, that when I stepped back inside that apartment, nothing would be the same. The gap between us had widened, and I didn't know how to fix it. By the time I reached the building, I had made a decision. I couldn't keep running away from this. I needed to face it, no matter how much it hurt. I needed to find out if there was anything left worth saving, or if this was the end of the road for us. I opened the door to my apartment. Clara was sitting on the couch, her eyes red, like she'd been crying. But when she saw me, she didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The look in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. We were both lost, and neither of us knew how to find our way back. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I even wanted to try. I stood at the door for a long moment, just staring at the dimly lit apartment. The silence inside felt suffocating, like it was waiting for me to make the first move. Clara was sitting on the couch, her posture stiff, her eyes glued to the floor. She didn't look up when I entered. I felt the weight of her gaze before she even looked at me. There was no comfort in her expression, no apology, just emptiness. A space between us that had never been there before. I closed the door behind me, the click of it echoing louder than I expected. It was like that sound signaled the end of something, something irreparable. And I wasn't sure if I even cared enough to fix it. Clara finally lifted her head, her eyes meeting mine. There was that same look from earlier, uncertainty, vulnerability, and something else. Guilt. She didn't speak at first, just studying me like she was trying to figure out who I was. I walked past her, heading to the kitchen. The lights were still dimmed, and the only sound was the hum of the fridge. I grabbed a glass, poured myself some water, but I couldn't seem to drink it. My hands were shaking slightly, and I set the glass down with a thud on the counter. I didn't know how to start this conversation. What was I supposed to say? So, Clara, I saw you with Liam tonight, and I need to know what the hell's going on. No, that wasn't it. I turned around to face her. She was still sitting there, her fingers nervously playing with the edge of her sleeve. I'm not angry, Clara, I said quietly, the words feeling heavier than I expected. I don't understand what happened. Her eyes flickered to me, and for a split second, I thought I saw something shift. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, as if she wasn't sure how to explain the mess we were in. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't even know how we got here. I wanted to scream at her, to demand the truth. I wanted to know what had been happening behind my back, what had been going on in her head. But instead, I just stood there, feeling more lost than I had in a long time. Then help me understand, Clara, I said, my voice cracking just a little. Help me understand what we've become. She shook her head slowly, her eyes filling with tears. I don't know. I thought we were fine. I thought I was happy. But then, I don't know. Liam, he just makes me feel seen. And I didn't want to admit it to myself. I didn't want to hurt you, Tom. But I've been lying to myself. And I've been lying to you. Her words hit me like a punch. It was everything I feared, everything I had been avoiding. I wanted to yell, to ask how long this had been going on, how long she'd been hiding this from me. But I couldn't. Something in her eyes, something in the way she spoke, made me realize I was already too late. I don't know what to do now, she said, her voice breaking. I don't want to lose you, but I don't know if I can go back to how it was. I don't know if I can go back to who I was before. The room felt smaller. My heart ached, and for the first time in ages, I felt the full weight of the situation. The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted either. Part of me wanted to hold on to what we had, to fight for it. But the other part of me, the part that had been broken by the distance, by the lies, felt like walking away was the only option left. I stood there in silence, unsure of what to say or do next. It was clear that Clara had already made her choice, and that she had been battling with herself for a long time. but I wasn't sure if I was ready to accept it. Not yet. The silence between us stretched on, neither of us knowing how to bridge the gap that had opened between us. "I'm sorry, Tom," Clara whispered. "I really am." I didn't respond. I couldn't, because I didn't know if I could forgive her. The silence hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating me. Clara's words still echoed in my mind, but they didn't bring clarity, only more confusion. How had we gotten here? How had the life we built together crumbled so quickly? I stood there, my back pressed against the kitchen counter, unable to move. Clara's eyes were fixed on the floor, her hands twisting in her lap, like she was trying to hold herself together. I wanted to reach out, to tell her that it was going to be okay, but the words wouldn't come. "I don't know how to fix this," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I looked at her, feeling a mixture of anger and heartbreak. "How long, Clara?" I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "How long have you been feeling this way?" She didn't look up at me. Her shoulders tensed, and I could see the hesitation in her face. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't know how to tell you. It's not just about Liam. It's about everything. The distance between us, the way things changed. It was all building up, and I didn't know how to stop it." Her confession hit me like a slap. I had seen the signs, hadn't I? But I had ignored them, convincing myself that everything was fine, that it was just a phase. "So this wasn't just about Liam?" I asked, my voice low, though I was struggling to keep the calm in it. "No, it wasn't just him," she replied, finally meeting my gaze. There was something raw in her eyes, something that told me she was as lost as I was. "It's me too. I've changed, and I think I've been too afraid to admit it." I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me, but at the same time, I felt sorry for her. For both of us. We were both drowning in this mess, and neither of us knew how to get out. "I don't even know who you are anymore," I said, the words tasting bitter as they left my mouth. It wasn't what I meant to say, but it was the truth. "I don't know either," Clara whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. She wiped them away quickly, but they kept coming. "I'm so sorry, Tom. I never wanted to hurt you. I still love you, but I don't know if I can love you the way you need me to anymore." Her words were like a dagger to my heart. I wanted to scream, to tell her everything that had been building up inside me. The doubt, the betrayal, the fear. But I didn't. Instead, I just stood there, the weight of her confession settling heavily in my chest. "I don't know what to do with all of this," I said quietly, my voice shaking. "I don't know if I can keep going like this." The air between us felt like it was closing in, as if the walls were shrinking with every passing second. Neither of us moved. Neither of us knew what to do next. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Clara spoke again, her voice barely audible. "Maybe we need to let go." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Let go? Could we really just throw everything away? Could we walk away from all the memories, all the promises we made to each other? I didn't want to believe it, but a part of me knew she was right. There was no going back. Not after everything that had happened. Her words hit me like a thunderclap, and I stood there frozen, the room spinning around me. Let go. It felt so final, so cold. My mind raced, but I couldn't wrap my head around what she was asking. Was this it? Was this the end? I thought back to everything we had, the late-night talks, the laughter, the way we had once felt like we could face anything together. But all of that seemed so far away now. The distance between us felt like an abyss that neither of us knew how to cross. I can't just let go," I said, my voice rough. "How do you expect me to just walk away from everything we've built? From us?" Clara looked down again, her fingers trembling as she twisted a loose strand of her hair. She didn't answer immediately, and the silence was suffocating. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and heavy, pressing down on both of us. "I don't know, Tom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't know what's left. I've tried so hard to fix it, to make it work, but it feels like we're just pretending, like we're holding on to something that's already broken." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her that we could fix it, that we could find a way back. But something inside me, some part of me that had been quietly watching everything unravel, knew she was right. We had been pretending. I had been pretending. Pretending that nothing had changed. Pretending that the little cracks hadn't turned into deep fractures. "I don't want to lose you," I said, my voice cracking despite myself. "But I can't keep doing this. I can't keep living in this limbo. It hurts too much." Clara's eyes filled with tears again, and I hated seeing her like this, but I didn't know how to make it stop. I don't want to lose you either, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I don't think I can be who you need me to be anymore. The words settled between us like a death sentence. There it was. The truth. We had tried. We had held on for as long as we could, but somewhere along the way, we had stopped being the people we used to be. I stood there, watching her, feeling my heart shatter all over again. How did we get here? How did the love we shared become this silent war of unspoken words, of missed connections? For a moment, I thought I might just leave, walk out the door, and never look back. But then I remembered the nights we had spent together, the way her hand fit perfectly in mine, the way she made me feel like I could conquer anything as long as she was by my side. And suddenly, it hit me. I had a choice. I could either walk away and let this be the end, or I could fight. Fight for the woman I loved. Fight for the life we had built, even if it meant facing the pain head-on. But did I still have it in me to fight? I looked at Clara, her face pale and tear-streaked, and something inside me broke. What happens now? I asked, my voice quiet but determined. Clara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked up at me, her eyes searching mine, as if looking for something, anything that would give her hope. I don't know, she finally said. I don't know what happens next. That was it. The uncertain silence stretched out before us, thick with the weight of our indecision. And I realized that whatever happened next, whatever choice we made, it wouldn't be easy. It would be the hardest thing either of us had ever done. But I couldn't walk away without knowing if there was still something worth saving. I stood there for a long moment, my heart heavy, my thoughts a jumbled mess. The silence between us stretched, but this time it didn't feel suffocating. It felt like the calm before a storm, a chance to finally face the truth. Clara's eyes were still searching mine, but now I saw something different. Hope, maybe, or the tiniest spark of something we had almost lost. I don't know what happens next either, I said, my voice steadier than before. But I know we have a choice, Clara. A real one. We can either keep drifting apart, or we can try to figure this out. Together. Her eyes softened, and for the first time in what felt like ages, I saw the woman I had fallen in love with. The woman who believed in us as a team. She wiped away a stray tear and nodded slowly. I want to try, she said, her voice stronger now, more certain. I want to fight for us, Tom. I know we've hurt each other, but I'm not ready to give up on what we have. Something inside me shifted, and the weight that had been pressing down on my chest lightened just a little. Maybe we didn't have all the answers. Maybe we weren't perfect, and we would never be. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like we had a chance. We don't have to fix everything right now, I said, walking over to where she sat on the couch. But we can start with today. We can start by being honest with each other and just trying. Clara's face softened, and she reached out, taking my hand in hers. I don't know if I can ever be the person I was before, she said quietly. But I know I don't want to face this world without you. I squeezed her hand, my heart swelling with a mixture of relief and cautious optimism. Then let's figure it out, step by step. Together, one day at a time. She smiled, the first genuine smile I had seen from her all night. It was small, but it was real. And in that moment, I realized something that I hadn't truly understood until now. Love isn't just about the easy moments or the happy times. It's about showing up when things get hard. It's about being there for each other, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. We didn't have all the answers, and we may never have them. But we had each other, and that, in the end, was enough. I love you, Tom, Clara whispered, her voice full of sincerity. I'm sorry for everything, but I want to make this work. I smiled back, the tightness in my chest finally easing. I love you too, Clara, and we'll make it work, one day at a time. And with that, we sat together in the quiet, knowing that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But we were willing to walk it side by side, as we always should have. And that was the most important thing of all.